If you have a Philips 2300 or 3300 like this one, and if your coffee comes out a little bit flat, light, without much body, well, the problem isn't necessarily your machine. In most cases, the real problem is simply the factory settings. And today, I'm going to show you the most important adjustments to get a denser, richer, more balanced espresso with your Philips coffee machine. Before touching the grinder, which is the most important, we need to understand a few basics. On a traditional espresso machine, you can easily work with 16 to 20 grams of coffee. On a Philips super automatic machine like those ones, you're much lower. In practice, we have between 9-10 grams. So if you run 50, 60 or 80 milliliters of water through that small dose, you're not making really a bigger espresso. Here you will dilute it. It's going to be a diluted espresso and quite weak, quite watery. The beginning of the extraction gives you the texture, the body, the aroma, and the end often gives you more water, more bitterness and dryness. So not something we want in the cup. So the first reflex should be this: less water to go through the puck, but enough to have a proper extraction. Let's start to the volume, the number one setting. So if you want a denser espresso, we will set the volume close to the minimum. If your model has a ristretto option, you can use the ristretto as your espresso. That's pretty good. If you don't have the espresso option, I would recommend using a small scale. That's quite practical to have a better idea. The easier here would be to aim between 25 and 35 grams in the cup. It will here depends on what you prefer, so not 60. Why? Because with only 8 to 10 grams of ground coffee, as we measured, at 30 grams in the cup, we already have a proper ratio for a real espresso on those machines. If you let it run much longer, you very quickly leave the espresso territory and we move into the lungo. So for me, the ristretto becomes the espresso on the Philips. Now, 3, intensity and the aroma. Second setting, the intensity, or what Philips call the aroma. If your coffee taste is weak, usually the intensity can also help. Here we will set the intensity to the maximum. This setting usually increases the amount of coffee the machine uses. It's not magic, but it's logical. More coffee from the same amount of water means more density, more extraction. Be careful, this setting will not save a bad ratio. So the order is clear. We will want a short volume and maximum intensity. After that, we can start to fine-tune the grinder. Number 4, the grinder. Finer, yes, but not randomly. The grinder, and you might know it, is the most important settings for espresso. But we need to adjust it properly. On Philips machine, the lower the number, the finer the grind. A finer grind creates more resistance and more extraction. But those machines are quite sensitive. So one important rule, we will adjust the grinder only while the grinder is running. You start a coffee. As soon as the grinder begins grinding, you turn the dial one step at a time. Just one. It's also important. Yes, it could take a while, but it's important. Then you make 2 or 3 espresso before judging, because the change is not always visible immediately. Personally, on my Philips machine, and I've tried a lot of them, I'm often always on the settings 1 or 2. I would say it depends on the coffee, but for Philips, I think you can go pretty low. The right setting is when the coffee flows more slowly, taste is a bit denser without choking the machine and without becoming dry or aggressive. Personally, I've never had a Philips machine that's starting dripping. If that happens for you, you need to grind a little bit coarser. I'll leave my precise adjustment in the description also. Now the temperature, the finishing setting. If your coffee also is a little bit too acidic, we have one more option, the temperature. Hot water extracts more easily. So we will set the temperature at the maximum, but remember, temperature does not fix a coffee that is too long with a bad ratio and a bad grind size. So yes, higher temperature only if you have shortened the drink and increased the intensity. The coffee itself. I could have moved that to the beginning of the video, but of course one important point the most is the coffee you use. So to coffee I would advise not to use a very light, very dense light roast with a lot of acidity. Those coffee requires more control, more temperature. They would not do well in those machines. I would also be careful with the black, the oily coffee that are extremely roasted. Those ones are maybe not the best for your machine and they tend also to be bitter extremely fast. So for me the easiest zone to start is the 9 only beans. So medium to medium dark roast, a nice espresso profile, a nice brown made surface. If you like longer coffee, don't ask the machine to push a huge amount of water through the puck. This is a classic mistake. At the beginning you extract the best part, at the end you wash it out. So if you want a longer coffee, if you want a big mug of coffee for the morning, the best for me is to make an Americano. Hot water in the cup, then a short espresso on top. It's much cleaner than a long extraction. Two quick details. If you use the LatteGo, use cold milk straight from the fridge. The foam is usually more consistent. Whole milk 3% is also better. For the espresso, preheat the cup if possible. A small cold cup can quickly kill the temperature on a small espresso. It's not the most important settings, but when you're trying to get a denser and more enjoyable coffee, every detail helps. So a quick recap for you to adjust your Philips 23 or 3300. Set the volume to minimum or close to the minimum. If you have a ristretto, use it. Set the intensity to the maximum. Grind finer, one click at a time, and patience, take your time. Use higher temperatures. Be careful of the coffee you're using. For the long coffee, hot water separately. We're not turning a Philips into a professional espresso machine, but with these settings, we will try to stop diluting the coffee. And we go usually from a weak cup to something with much more coherent, denser, much closer to what we expect from an espresso. Let me know if you want more tutorials like this, if that would be useful for you. And don't forget to watch the video coming here. As usual, I'll see you soon on Cafelista. I hope you'll have a good week. Ciao.